These are 15 secret income strategies successful artists use, and I know they work because one of them made me over $20,000 in just one weekend alone. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. The first strategy is one that we borrow from the amazing Salvador Dali, who created a dream sequence, a series of artworks, a series of props, a series of objects for the amazing movie Spellbound from Alfred Hitchcock. Now the benefit that Dali gains here is that he can say afterwards, I collaborated with insert famous director or insert famous Hollywood star or insert somebody that's famous. You elevating your status by proximity to somebody else's status. This is just a tried and true method of success. Number 2. Offering art direction services, where you will be shaping the vision of the artistic project, shaping the vision of the magazine, shaping the vision of whatever event that you're working on. Now before you go nuts and say this has nothing to do with art, this is just a completely different job. Leonardo da Vinci was doing exactly this. He was creating events, organizing pageants, organizing festivities for the royalty, for the nobility. And what did da Vinci gain from all of this? A bunch of connections, a complete Rolodex that he could then use to write history afterwards. So that is your strategy here. You are collecting all sorts of connections and then using those to build your career out. By the way, this is what Ty Lopez did. This is what Chris Williamson did. There are a lot of famous people now in the today's zeitgeist that first started off in the event organizing industry, in the party industry. Number 3, offering architectural services, where you will be working on big ass collaborations, big ass projects with big ass commissions, high profile projects that you can then afterwards say, hey, I worked for this high profile thing, or hey, my construction is there hanging in London or New York or any type of major city. Now, the downside here is that you will have to work with architects, you will have to work with other institutions, you will have to collaborate with people. And why would those people collaborate with you? Why would they want your art if they can design it themselves? These architects can also design stuff. The only reason they are going to do that is if you are already kind of famous. Now a great example of this is Jeff Koons, who did his train project or proposal for some kind of train and thing in New York, whatever. I'm gonna put it on the screen. Artists are doing this all of the time. Number 4, creating virtual reality art for virtual reality spaces and virtual reality people. Now the benefit here is that you are at the forefront of technology. You are at the forefront of art. You are doing something completely new, breaking the status quo, being the avant-garde, being the impressionist before impressionism is a thing, making abstract art before abstract art is a thing, making Prantis before George Seurat picks up a brush. Now the downside is of course that virtual reality might never actually take off. We don't know that. Sure, Mark Zuckerberg thinks that virtual reality is the next big thing and invests everything in that, but that might just never take off. Zeppelins never really took off. A lot of technologies never really took off, and then you spend all of that time building your virtual reality skills, learning these new technology things for nothing. Number 6, making art in a beautiful location where you don't have to pay for the location, you don't have to market your art, you don't have to sell your art, you don't have to pay for food, you don't have to pay for anything, and you're just making art in a beautiful location and you're getting $2,000 every single month for doing what you love. AKA participating in artist residencies. A lot of these artist residencies will allow you to stay in their beautiful accommodation for free, eat their food and drink their wine for free, and then make art, whatever art that you want, while paying you $2,000 a month. And so this is an amazing opportunity. The downside is that you will have to fight for that opportunity. You will have to apply to those residencies and you will have to win, aka you will have to practice applying to residencies. And whatever you practice, you become good at. And so practicing applying and spending money basically is becoming good at applying and spending money. It's becoming good at asking for things. And ideally you want to become good at making money regardless. Number 7, taking a page from the playbook, William Morris, a famous artist from the 19th century who did a lot of things, from architecture to wallpaper to art to all sorts of stuff. And so you could be selling pattern designs to businesses. You designing the pattern, they doing all of the selling, them doing all of the marketing. You don't have to do any of the business stuff, and you just get royalties coming into your bank account. Now the downside here is that AI can design patterns, and you are not only fighting against big corporations that are doing these pattern designs and big artists that are doing these pattern designs, but also AI. Now this might also be an upside. Perhaps you figure out how to use AI better than all those established people who want to stay away from that because they're afraid that AI will destroy their business, and then you can come in with a new technology and destroy all of them together. Number 8, this one is going back a very long time. Rembrandt was creating workshops for people. He was creating courses. A large portion of his revenue came from those workshops. Now in the 21st century there is something else. You can now create workshops and courses online, so that you can get passive income. You don't actually have to be there on the courses, just like Rembrandt, who was wasting his time giving all of those courses. Now in the 21st century there is an upgrade to this whole Rembrandt theory business. You can create online courses, you can record stuff, and then you don't have to spend your time giving the same workshop over and over. And so in other words, you get passive income coming in your way. Now the downside of the online course playbook is of course that there's a lot of upfront effort and cost involved. You need cameras, you need audio equipment, you also need a lot of time. They say that creating a course takes the same amount of time as making a book. People spend 1-2 years on making a book. Speaking of books, number 9 is creating your own books. Hokusai did exactly this. He created the Hokusai manga, a series of sketches, and that became a big hit for him. But you don't have to create a big hit. You could also just create an art book where the art book becomes an authority driver for your art. A lot of galleries are doing this all of the time. They create this art book for this big artist, and then nobody actually buys the book, but the book exists and makes the original art more expensive. Number 10, creating augmented reality art, or just benefiting from this augmented reality technology. Olafur Eliasson, one of my favorite artists, actually built this whole Wunderkamer thing out where people can use augmented reality to put his art in their living room in an augmented reality world where they can already test out if the art actually fits the living room prior to buying, prior to testing out, prior to seeing the art in real life, just like that. Now the benefit here is of course that people can then use this augmented reality technology to literally just take their phone, take a picture of places in their art, and the augmented reality artwork is literally put inside of the pictures, and they can immediately see if it works in their interior. If other artists don't offer this, then you have an advantage and you can be selling where other artists cannot be selling. Now speaking of selling, Olafur Eliasson does the Wunderkamer in 2020. Long before he does the Wunderkamer, long before this augmented reality is a thing. I did this with a gallery. We built this augmented reality thing out, and I remember, I'm very young now, this is 8, 9, this is a long time ago. I don't remember exactly which time, but I remember being very hyped up about this. I thought, oh my god, this is amazing. Nobody is doing this yet. I'm at the forefront of this new technology, and then you will offer this technology to people, and people will massively be glad that they can now just test it out in their room, the whole thing. This will blow up for sure. And so I'm envisioning this whole future in front of my eyes. We developed this thing, or the guy at the gallery that I was working with then, he develops this thing. It's beautiful. It works. People can just literally take my art and hang it in their room with the easiness of their phone and all of that stuff. And how many people bought that art? 0 people bought that art. Turns out the gallery owner wasn't really so much of a sales guy. He wasn't actually doing any marketing. He wasn't actually doing any sales. He wasn't actually selling any artwork of any of the artists, and the gallery just broke down into pieces. Turned out he was more of a visionary and artist himself, and then became an artist himself afterwards. And so this is a funny thing that shows you that no matter how early you are, no matter how visionary you are, you have to do the marketing and sales. You have to figure out how to actually sell your stuff, aka you have to check out the artist formula where I go through my full blueprint, everything that I learned, everything that I know about selling art so that you can sell your art yourself right now. Link in the description. Number 11, providing art for scientific illustrations and medical journals. Now the benefit here is that this is a steady demand. There is constant scientific discovery and there are constant academics that can draw or make art that want your service. And so you have that steady stream of thing going on. Plus, this is a very fulfilling thing. You are collaborating on important knowledge. You are helping the world out. You are elevating the knowledge base of society. You are driving progress in that same society. Now the downside here is that there's some kind of technical skill required. If you are making illustrations for, I don't know, quantum physics, you better understand quantum physics, otherwise you will not be making those illustrations. So there needs to be some kind of love for science for sure. A good example of this is of course Leonardo da Vinci, who made anatomical drawings for medical journals of his time. Those same anatomical drawings are still being used today in medical journals, in medical textbooks 500 years later. Now collectors also know this. They know that if you are making illustrations of important scientific discoveries, of important scientific theories, then your illustrations will be lingering on for a couple of 100 years. And so this will all build your brand out after your death. Number 12, turning your biggest pain point in your biggest asset. And what is the biggest pain point? Paying taxes. When you sell something, you pay taxes. When you make profit, you pay taxes. When you have stuff, you pay taxes. When you have assets and then you give them to your children, you will have to pay taxes. When you are going into your lucid dreaming, you will pay lucid dream taxes and astral projection taxes and thought taxes. For those who do thought crimes and pay their thought taxes, they will get away with it. But if you don't, then you go to jail. Now, what does the government do with all of their taxes? With the 99% that they get from your income, 99% taxes, what do they do with this? They give it in public benefits, in public projects for the people, roads and things alike. And one of those public projects is art, public art installations. And so you can apply for those public art installations as an artist, and then you get to make art with the taxpayer money. Now the downside is of course that this is very bureaucratic. You have to apply for stuff and you have to become good at applying. You have to become good at writing out those grants and all of that stuff. A good example of this is Michelangelo, who did the Sistine Chapel, a project that was supported by institutions. He applied for that and got that project. Number 14. Earlier we talked about Rembrandt. We did this workshop stuff and then you can turn that into online courses and that whole thing. Great idea. Very hard to execute because it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. A easier version of this would be one-on-one mentorship. It's basically the same concept. You also help students out. You also help people who are slightly below you at a particular skill, whether it's drawing or painting or business or whatever. You help them out and you do it in a one-on-one atmosphere. So you don't have to develop this whole course, which is very hard. You can instantly start to monetize the audience that you've already built. Next one, going into the world of blockchain and cryptocurrencies and non-fungible tokens. The benefit here is that you of course are part of a groundbreaking technology that is potentially revolutionizing human history. Now a great example of this is People, who is making $10,000 a month, $15,000 a month, something like that. I'm just estimating here. And then he goes and creates NFTs. He steps into the world of non-fungible tokens and instantly sells something for $1.6 million. A couple of months later, 4 months later, he sells another NFT for $69 million. I think it's called The First 5,000 Days or something. And so, how did this happen? What changed in his skill set? Nothing. He was just lucky. He was just the right person at the right time by going into a new technology. The only reason he became lucky is because he put himself in a position where he could become lucky by grabbing this new technology and going for it. Now, in order to make any of these work, you will have to learn how to sell and market your art. And you can do that by subscribing to my newsletter where I explain how to market and sell your art with just 5 minutes a week. for free. In order to make this video complete, we have to talk about 45 more ways, which I've done in a video called 60 ways you can make money top paying income streams 2024. Link in the description and the end screen. That's it. Get the hell out of here.